is, because and that means the search continues, right? The search continues, and that if again, I think tipsters should realize if you see Brian Laundrie, the tip should still come in, right? I mean, let's be logical here. We don't know that that's Brian Laundrie. We know it's a backpack. We know it's a notebook, but we don't know that's Brian Laundrie yet. And I think people will be frustrated, but they should understand the investigation takes its time because they want to make sure it's right and accurate.
Let's start with this one, and this would be a direct opportunity for us to get some information. But Melissa Mariuti, #HeyWalt, #HeyJB. Hopefully Brian left answers in that notebook in regards to all of our questions that we have.
No doubt. And
Does
if
that
it's
notebook
legible, if it can be read, if it was in the water, can you read it right away? But paper, again, the FBI has probably I don't think there's a probably about it. It's the best crime lab in the world.
Let's also talk about we don't know this is Brian Laundrie. We don't know this is Brian Laundrie. If this is Brian Laundrie, if we don't know the manner of death, people are commenting already, blowing up #HeyJB, #HeyWalt, saying and wondering aloud or theorizing aloud that this is suicide. Is the notebook potential for it's not a piece of paper, it's a notebook, but is that the potential for what in other cases would be called a suicide note? That's another thing that people are again, just chiming in with some of the things that people are saying here in the social media comment section. But this is very much some of the comments that we're getting in here. Let's get to some more questions and comments, and we asked you to define what you think justice is in this case. Tammy Lynn, #HeyJB, #HeyWalt. Justice is someone being held accountable for murdering Gabby and helping him get away. Let's not understate that or miss that they called it a murder. Michael McPherson called it a murder. It has otherwise been disclosed.
Did he say murder today?
No, I wrote it down. A person of interest, and he identified Brian Laundrie. I wrote it in my notes because I wanted to be certain. Michael McPherson, FBI, said that Brian Laundrie is a person of interest in Gabby Petito's murder. Now, while that might not seem like a big revelation to people joining us and saying like, JB, why are you making a big deal out of that? It's a big deal in that when it's acknowledged by the FBI that it's now not a homicide, a murder case, and that he's a person of interest in murder, which we haven't ever heard those words uttered before. He was a person of interest in an FBI-led criminal investigation into the disappearance of Gabby Petito. And of course, then it would come out that the federal arrest warrant was issued for the credit card, the alleged credit card or debit card fraud. But to hear those words, Brian Laundrie, person of interest in Gabby Petito's murder, we can't overlook that. That was a moment in this press conference that didn't offer all that much, but that stuck out to me because it's the first time we haven't heard much from the FBI. And we haven't even heard Josh Taylor, the spokesperson for Northport Police, utter those words. But we had it here today from FBI agent Michael McPherson speaking in Mike Kahachi.
Could it be a slip of the tongue? Should he have said homicide? And keep in mind, here's what we're talking about.
Yep.
Murder. Now, again, a strangulation. I'm pretty sure strangulations have to almost always be first degree because intent does not seem to, I'm not an attorney, but intent does not seem to be a question in a strangulation because of the length of time. Does the FBI now consider this a murder and we don't know that? It's initially a homicide, which would include murder, second-degree murder, criminally negligent homicide, manslaughter. This is with a strangulation, there's intent. So maybe they do now consider it a murder. I don't know, or a slip of the tongue, but very, very perceptive of you to pick that up, JB.
Also, well, we have to be perceptive with the comment in front of us. Tammy saying, and helping him get away. Now, that is a comment. That is a comment that, as we see Cassie Laundrie come up here on screen, but that is a comment that is alleging, Tammy is alleging that Brian Laundrie wasn't alone as far as leaving and as far as eluding authorities. Now, you just saw Chief Todd Garrison, who was there at the press conference as well. I don't know if you caught that, Walt, but Chief Todd Garrison, Chief of Northport Police, was there as well. He was the one who famously said, or infamously said, We know where Brian is, and he was there at that press conference today. But again, Tammy alleging here that Brian had help. Did Brian have help? Was Chris or Roberta Laundrie involved in him leaving the home? Was there somebody else that aided him? These are questions now that get tackled in the future, but I don't know if necessarily how much that is going to satisfy getting answers to that question. I don't know how much that satisfies those that have been crying out for justice for Gabby. I don't know what that would mean to Nicole or Joe Petito or Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's mom and dad. We don't know, but it's interesting there are so many out there that still today believe that Brian's disappearance didn't occur without help.
In a third-degree felony in Florida, the parent has immunity against being prosecuted for accessory after the fact in a third-degree felony. If this is a murder, which it appears to be, it does not appear to be a manslaughter or a criminal. It doesn't appear to be an accident. You can't accidentally strangle someone. If they somehow believe or can prove that Brian did it, and that becomes difficult, you could get them for accessory. You can, first or second, you can get parents for accessory. Keep in mind, nobody's been charged. I do not believe there's no immunity in a federal case, though. So if this is a federal case, and obviously you'd have to be able to link the son to the crime, right? How do you do that if the son is no longer alive? So those things come into play. Now, obstructing justice or getting in the way or lying to police, I don't think it would have to have any tie to the real base crime here, which is the homicide. So I get what she's saying there. But again, let's really emphasize this. No one has been charged with anything except Brian Laundrie for the debit card fraud with Gabby Petito's cards.
Let me ask you this. If this is Brian Laundrie, and if Brian Laundrie is determined to be deceased, what happens to the Gabby Petito homicide murder investigation? What happens to is there ever a day where Brian Laundrie gets named as a suspect, even if he is deceased? How does the process evolve now that we have potentially Brian Laundrie deceased in addition to Gabby Petito?
I think that notebook's key. What's the notebook say? If the notebook somehow says I had to do it or whatever it says, that's a key. Can they read the notebook? You know, it's interesting. You said earlier in this broadcast how this story, and you're right, has had so many odd twists. The camping trip, the fact they bought the camper at that point, the Mustang,
the flight home,
that was a rumor that turned out to be true. The social media impact on it, that the last time she was seen alive was by a social influencer, a social media influencer out of New Orleans, and that the van was spotted by a social media influencer out of Spring Hill, Florida, and that this text comes into play, and now, you know, as we look forward with this case, and that notebook becomes such a key part of this. Let me put this question to you, JB, real quick. Here's another one that came up to me. How about this? Let's say it's not Brian Laundrie. How big's that notebook? Becomes almost bigger if it's not Brian Laundrie, because it theoretically has.
What you're saying is, if I want to make sure I follow this correctly before I say something, what you're asking is if the remains aren't Brian's, but the backpack and the notebook are Brian's?
Yes, the notebook now becomes a key to theoretically finding Brian Laundrie.
The
notebook's the biggest story. That notebook is huge.
I'll ping pong back to you. Let's just pretend for a moment. What if the remains weren't found? What if this had just been the backpack and the notebook?
Right. It's big. What's in the backpack? What is in that backpack? But that notebook that's a big deal from a guy, I believe, who fancied himself to be a writer of sorts. Correct?
That adds up. Yes.
Yeah. So someone like that puts their, they put their real thoughts in that notebook. So if they can read it, that's going to be interesting. But here, let me ask you this. I don't know the answer. We have many FBI agents that we've talked to. Does the FBI have to release that notebook to anybody other than the family? Do they have to release the details? If Brian Laundrie's no longer with us, I don't believe he can go from, well, I guess he could if they found more evidence. He could go from person of interest to suspect, but he's no longer with us. So that's another question. Can he go from person of interest to suspect if he's dead? Even if they find more evidence? What would be the use of that other than, I don't know. I don't know what would be the use of that. A lot of questions. News conference was a surprise.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I was surprised that the notebook now is going to be the subject of threads online, comments.
Yes.
The amount of attention that this notebook is going to receive. This is going to be the most famous notebook in the world, or the most infamous notebook in the world. Everyone's going to want to know its contents.
Right.
Everyone's going to want to know whether it's intact.
Right.
And we had a commenter here, and the honest part, I was surprised that they even gave us that. I would have. No one would have blinked an eye if they had just said, "We found a backpack."
Interesting. Really good point. Very good.
We
point.
just
You're
found a
right.
backpack, and then we found remains, and that was the contents of the press conference itself. Was just those two announcements. But the notebook is an add-on now. That is, I already see it. It's happening in real time, interactively here. I'm watching it happen on all these platforms. People are now asking, what is in the notebook? It's going to be a hashtag in no time. What was in the notebook?
Right.
And so I'm surprised, to say the least, Walt, that piece of information was released by Michael McPherson of the FBI, because I didn't think that they were going to get that detailed as far as what they found here at the scene and in Myakkahatchee. There was another comment here, and Kay is right on the money. Kay Dean. Hashtag HeyJB. Hopefully the backpack was waterproof and the notebook is still intact. Or she says intake, but that's intact.
Right. I guess I saw it as two items side by side. I saw it as backpack and notebook.
No, that could very well
could be the notebooks in the backpack. But that makes your point even more important. Is that this is the FBI? They don't release details. I hope you folks understand.
I'll go as far to say that I am shocked that they put out the detail about the notebook.
And I'm not criticizing them for not releasing details. I get it. I fully get it. But yes, was the backpack must have been waterproof, but was the notebook in the backpack?
I don't know.
No?
I have backpacks that aren't waterproof. Well, what do you mean? Hold on. What do you mean by waterproof now? Right. So let's talk about this.
Is it a camping backpack?
I'm very grateful for Kay for bringing this up.
Yeah.
Because, okay, waterproof, yeah, if I have a backpack and it rains outside, I don't think the contents of my backpack are gonna get wet. What's in the backpack is gonna get wet. But if that backpack is submerged underwater for days or weeks on end, is water gonna trickle in there, and is the backpack contents just gonna be also submerged in water? So waterproof could mean that it just, it's not going to, from rain, or it goes back to, yes, conversations about like your iPhone. Your iPhone is waterproof, but up to what depth? They have different grades now for your electronic devices, as far as, okay, you can have your iPhone, modern day iPhones, like you can have your iPhone underwater up to 3 feet of water for a period of 30 minutes or something like that, and it'll stay functional. But same for the backpack. So the backpack also, if it's completely submerged underwater, how long, or is there a length of time before the contents of that backpack also too get submerged? And also, it sounds silly that we're bringing this up, but does the backpack float?
Right.
Or is it? I think if it floated. If the backpack I don't think the backpack floated. I'm almost answering my own question. I think it was underneath the surface of the water. But Walt, your point is perfect as far as was the notebook in the backpack or was it found alongside the backpack? And more important than even that question, how intact is the notebook? Was it thoroughly destroyed by the water that has fallen in Myakkahatchee, or especially over the month of September?
We don't know, though, how deep of water that these remains were found in, or how deep the water was for these remains. We don't, you know what I mean? Like, it could have been a shallow situation, but yeah, this point is very important because that notebook's a very vital piece of information.
Now, I want to bring up this comment that just came in from Alicia Seegers. Hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt. The type of bag they found is called a dry bag. They're silicone-based, but I don't remember them saying it was a dry bag. Now, a dry bag to me is different than a traditional I think of a backpack and a dry bag of being two separate things. But I don't remember them saying during the press conference that it was a dry bag. Did that?
No, I don't know where that came out, but
I remember hearing a backpack. And so, Alicia, I'm just gonna, if I may, I'm just going to correct you and just say that the backpack was what they found was a backpack, and we hope it's a dry bag. If it's a dry bag, okay, so a dry bag is designed to, if it's even out to sea, there are dry bags that if you literally cast them out to sea, there's little that is ever going to be done to allow water into that bag. But and yes, they're silicone based.